Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a topic that is so much more than just knights and battles. We're talking about the Crusades. These were events that literally changed the world, and by the end of this, we're going to give you the exact tools you need to not just get it, but to build an amazing analysis for your assignment.
You know, this image right here, from the capture of Antioch, it tells you pretty much the whole story. This isn't just a simple battle. It's a clash of entire worlds, and it's all fueled by this incredible religious faith, raw ambition, and a level of conflict that would reshape the map for centuries to come.
So, here's our game plan. Think of this as your strategic toolkit. First, we'll cover what the Crusades even were. Then we're going to break down the impact through 4 key lenses: politics, economics, geography, and culture. And finally, we'll show you how to put it all together to construct a killer analysis. All right, let's jump in.
All right, first things first. What exactly were the Crusades? The key thing to remember is this wasn't just one war. It was a series of religious wars that stretched for nearly 200 years, fundamentally changing the relationship between Europe and the Middle East.
So, you might think this all started on a battlefield, right? Nope. It actually starts with a single speech, a call to arms so incredibly powerful it would kickstart centuries of conflict and reshape the entire known world.
So, back in 1095, Pope Urban II, he sees this golden opportunity. The Byzantine emperor in Constantinople needs help fighting the Seljuk Turks. And the Pope is smart about it. He frames it as a call to defend fellow Christians, but then he adds an even bigger, more motivating goal: liberating the holy city of Jerusalem.
And you know, the name itself tells you so much. Crusade comes from the Latin word for cross. The warriors would literally sew cloth crosses onto their clothes, making it a public vow. So this wasn't just a war. It was something more, like an armed pilgrimage, with the ultimate prize, the forgiveness of all their sins.
And the response? Deus le vult. God wills it. I mean, that was the rallying cry. It spread like wildfire, pulling in everyone from peasants to kings from every corner of Europe.
Okay, so you've got thousands of people mobilized and on the move. What happens next? Let's look at this through a political lens. How did this holy war literally redraw the map and shake up the entire power structure?
So, from a political angle, the first huge thing that happens is the creation of something totally new. 4 European-style kingdoms just kind of plopped right down in the Middle East. We call them the Crusader states. Now, of course, this sparked centuries of conflict with legendary Muslim leaders like Saladin. And meanwhile, back in Europe, it kicks off this massive power struggle between popes and kings over who was really in charge.
And what this timeline really shows us is that this whole thing was a constant back and forth. The initial capture of Jerusalem in 1099, that was the peak for the Crusaders. But it was followed by one setback after another. Then you have the legendary Saladin taking the city back, and eventually the whole project just collapses by 1291.
Okay, but all this fighting and politicking, well, that costs a ton of money. The Crusades were incredibly expensive, and that created economic shockwaves that changed entire nations and the lives of regular people.
When you look at the economics, you kind of have to see it on 2 levels. On the small scale, you have individual knights selling off their family land, going into massive debt just to pay for the trip. But on the large scale, the promise of getting rich became this huge, corrupting force, and it got so bad that it led to one of the most shocking moments: Crusaders looting their own Christian allies in Constantinople.
Yeah, the Fourth Crusade. This is your go-to example if you're writing about economics. I mean, they basically forgot the original mission and just went for the money, sacking Constantinople, a Christian city, by the way, simply because it was loaded. It's a perfect case study of greed completely taking over.
So we've got people and money moving all over the place. And what does that do? Well, it literally redraws the map. The Crusades sparked one of the biggest mass movements of people in the medieval era, and it completely changed how people understood the world, geographically.
Just look at this map. This really shows you the incredible scale of what was happening. I mean, check out these routes. This was a brand new network connecting parts of the world that had been totally separate. For the very first time, huge numbers of Europeans were traveling to lands they'd only heard stories about, and they forged a link between West and East that would never be broken.
So if you're focusing on geography, the main point is this new, sustained contact. This wasn't just a one-time thing. It created a permanent shift in the mental map of the world for Europeans. It opened up trade, it opened up communication, and those connections stuck around for centuries.
But you know, when different worlds collide like this, it's never just about maps and trade routes. It's about culture.
And the cultural impact of the Crusades, man, it was deep, it was complicated, and honestly, a lot of it was tragic. It left a legacy we're still dealing with today.
This is really the core of the cultural story. It's this dark paradox. You had this incredible religious devotion on one hand, the kind that would make someone leave everything behind for a holy pilgrimage. And on the other hand, that exact same fervor fueled just brutal, horrific violence and persecution.
And we have to be really clear about this part, because the sources are, this had a tragic and deadly consequence. Before the Crusaders even got near the Holy Land, mobs started attacking Jewish communities in their own European cities, calling them enemies of Christ, and murdering thousands in places like Mainz and Cologne. It's a dark but absolutely vital part of the cultural impact.
But, and this is so important, the story isn't just one of hatred. Listen to this quote. It's pretty amazing. It comes from an official in Saladin's own court. He's talking about his fear turning to admiration after seeing his leaders show mercy to a Christian prisoner. It just goes to show you that even in the middle of all this conflict, you could find these incredible moments of shared humanity.
All right, so we've looked at the evidence through all four lenses: politics, economics, geography, and culture. Now, for the big question, how do you take all of this and build a fantastic analysis for your assignment?
This is where the race framework comes in. Seriously, this is your secret weapon. It's super simple. R, restate the question in your own words. A, answer it with one clear sentence, that's your thesis. C, cite your evidence, like bring up the sack of Constantinople for an economics paper. And E, this is the most important part, explain exactly how that piece of evidence proves your point.
So in the end, what story are you going to tell? Were the Crusades about faith? Was it a clash of civilizations? Or was it just this massive engine of change that nobody saw coming, with all these unintended consequences? The evidence is there for all of them. The power and the A+ is in the argument you build.